All right, so welcome everyone to getting the Inflation Reduction Act efficient home improvement tax credits, otherwise known as HOMES 25C. This course is brought to you by the GreenHome Institute. The GreenHome Institute is a nonprofit with a mission to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the renovation and construction of the places we live. Today, I will be your moderator. My name is Brett Little. I'm the education manager here at the GreenHome Institute. We're a small but mighty team of three who are here to help assist you with your needs and services if you need further and additional support. Now, before we get started on this session, just as a reminder, I'm someone who's done many upgrades to my two different homes that I've owned in the past, and I've helped many others do it. I've also claimed some of these different tax credits we're going to be talking about and helped others claim these tax credits. And so I think it's important because I wanted to share with you what I know and help all of you be able to achieve this with yourselves or your clients to help make homes better and get these Inflation Reduction Act tax credits in a meaningful way that goes beyond just a one-for-one credit, but a holistic approach to doing it, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Also, all of you here today might have some insight and knowledge. So as we go, whether you're here live or watching this recording on demand, please share your experience in the chat or in the comments. Have you received these credits and what was it like? How did it go? We want to hear from you. Now, we're going to be talking about tax credits, so it's important to make a statement here, and you have this statement documented. The presented information is meant to serve as, not meant to serve as tax advice or guarantee of tax credit. You'll need to consult your tax advisor to determine if you are eligible, or have your client consult their advisor to see if they're eligible on a case-by-case basis. Now, as we're going through this session, I'm going to be making a lot of different references and links to many different resources. We don't have time to go through all of them today, but we hope you'll go back and look at a couple of them. I will mention right off the bat right now, number 4. That's a big one I'm going to be referencing multiple times. That link will bring you to many of the other links I'm going to reference, so I'll bring that up. Rather than posting them all, I just wanted to say number 4 here, the Energy Star website, a great resource, and I'll be referencing that quite often. So hopefully you have this handout. It's got all of these links in there. If you don't, you can access that in the download or let me know. The other thing I want to mention is I'm going to be talking about the federal tax credits and not the homes rebates that are delivered by each state. However, I will be referencing the homes and HERA rebates. And so as of this webinar, as of today, as of the recording, only New York State has passed 1/2 of that, and it's been adopted and accepted by the Department of Energy out of all 50 states in the union. So congratulations, New York. And so this is an opportunity for you to figure out what your state energy office is doing, get engaged, get involved, lend your ideas on how they should structure the program, and tell them to get this money out the door. We have an FAQ we shared on the DOE link with more information about this. There's also guidance that just came out from the IRS on how to claim when you get these rebates and how you can compound them, braid them with the 25C tax credit. So we have that guidance listed there in the link tree. So here's a resource I like to look at that we reference in the third link we shared. It's just really giving a high-level detail of what you can expect for a tax credit when looking at 2024 and beyond, just real high-level basic information without getting into the details to give you a sense of what the credits might be available for. And we get this right off of the Department of Energy's website. In summation, basically what you're looking at is you and your clients can overall get $3,200 potentially per year in these Homes 25C tax credits. But that's split up with $1,200 that's pretty much to envelope and building structural and electrical upgrades, and then an additional $2,000 that's focused on heating water and heating the air. So that's how these break up. And then if you combine them together in 1 year, it could be up to potentially $3,200 $2,000. All right. And then here is again that federal government Energy Star tax website that I highly recommend you put on your bookmark and keep refreshing it because it just keeps getting better. It keeps making more sense. We did this session a year ago. It's already in a lot better shape than it was a year ago. This is where you're going to go and find all of that information, as well as some of the new construction and commercial rebates. There's some more details for that as well. And again, you can find that link in the handouts page on the handout. It's also important to have on hand and review and help try to understand best the Form 5695. This is the residential energy tax credits form. This not only has the Homes 25C tax credits, but it also has the solar and ground source heat pump or geothermal tax credits, which work a little bit differently. And we're going to talk about those in line with this session as well. Now, taxes, you know, your taxes, your situation is going to look very different. So it's important to understand that in order for you to claim these taxes, you have to have some kind of liability. So this is important for you to know whether you'd even be able to access this. You might be surprised that you have a liability. There might be some strategies you can implement to make sure you have a liability so you can get these credits that still benefit you. That's something you need to work on with your accountant, your tax advisor, you know, somebody who's helping you with your taxes. Can you leverage these before you go out and expect this money to be part of your capital stack or your improvement plan for your project or your home or your client? You should get a good sense that you could claim these so you're not disappointed at the end of the year. The biggest problem we have, and I think even I saw some of you post this in the chat, is most accountants are going to tell you in some ways that you can't get this. And there's two reasons for that. Number one is they're highly conservative in not in the political sense, but in the sense of they just want to make sure you're not claiming something you can't get to protect you and protect them. So they're going to err on the side of caution. And what we're finding in our conversation is most accountants are going to say you can't do this. And I already see some comments coming in. They're saying you can't do this. So I would push back a little bit and challenge that, send them this webinar, help them understand a little bit better, help them talk to somebody else. We hope to get an accountant on and talk to them at some point who's doing this, if they're willing to come forth and share it. I know they're a little skeptical, but I want to tell you that the first thing that you're going to hear is, no, you can't do this. You can't claim this. No, we can't get this. No, 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 no. That's always what you're going to hear. So don't let that, it may be true, and it may be true this year. It might not be true next year. You may need to change your tax situation, but the follow-up is to say, why is this? And I will tell you, one of the first reasons we always hear why back is these folks don't understand energy efficiency, right? That's not their job. And so part of the confusion with the Inflation Reduction Act is it requires you to understand taxes and energy efficiency, and that's a rare individual. So we really need to come together. We need to understand better how taxes work. I've learned a lot more since Inflation Reduction Act is launched. And accountants need to understand better how energy efficiency works. And we need to come together and, figure this out together. So bring them to this session, share the recording with them. We need to overcome these issues and get tax advisors understanding energy efficiency so they can help you and your clients and help others and not just say, no, you can't get these tax credits. All right, so moving on, again, when you look at that EnergyStar.gov website, you're going to see the bifurcation of the technology. On the top, you're going to see the big money, the $2,000 or 30%, 30% or $2,000 cap for your air source heat pumps, your heat pump water heaters. And then if you go below that, you're going to see the $1,200 per year for your building infrastructure, your windows, doors, insulation, fossil gas equipment, traditional air conditioning, electrical panel upgrades, and the home energy audit as well. So let's look at one example of how the system works. So if you go ahead and click on the heat pump water heater one and head over to that one, you'll see that it gives you some good information, what you can claim, 30%. What's the maximum? 2,000. It gives you some other nice links here. You'll see a lot of repetitive information on this. And then most importantly, what products are eligible. So I think I wanted to highlight the heat pump water heater one because DOE, if you're listening, you've done an amazing job here on this one. And I hope that you all can replicate this for the other products because they've done such a great job. But don't expect this level of information for the other technologies. They've done such a wonderful job on heat pump water heaters, not such a great job on the rest of the tech. Some of the stuff is so simple you don't need to do this. But let me show you. If you go ahead and scroll down and you click what products are eligible, you'll see this come up. And this is amazing because number one, you can sort by additional rebates that might be available in your zip code. You can sort by the fuel type. You can even look at what I really like is the two different types of heat pump technologies, the 240 volt, right? The big ones, the hybrid ones that have electric resistance, or the 120 volt, the new ones that are coming out. And then it gives you a whole list of all of, and then it has brand names underneath that, and then even more information. And then you can sort by brands. Fuel efficiency is Energy Star certified. You can do comparisons. And these are all products that are, listed as approvable. And again, this is going to make your accountant feel better. Send them this and be like, oh, I see it. It's listed on their website. I feel really good about this, hopefully. And so I think they've done a wonderful job with this, and I hope they replicate this for the other technologies. All right, so a couple important things to know is upgrades must be done to an existing home and your principal residence. So a lot of you are consultants, you're helping others. So you're helping others figure this out. And it's important to know that this particular one cannot be used for new construction or for rentals. For new construction, you want to look at 45L, potentially 179D, and we're going to have additional sessions on those tax credits as well. So unfortunately, can't use those. That's if you're building a zero energy ready certified multifamily project or single family home as well. And then again, just a reminder, a new construction cannot be used. And how do you define a principal residence? Well, that's a residence, a home where you live most of the time. The home must be in the United States. It can include a houseboat, a mobile home, which is great because mobile homes typically get left out of all these incentives. So that's great. Cooperative, it can be an apartment in a condominium or a manufactured housing, but it has to be an existing project. So again, for new construction, you're looking at 45L, getting zero energy ready certified. For multifamily, you're looking at that or 179D, as well. So the way we're going to discuss organizing you or your client's projects for these types of upgrades is looking at something called our home energy efficiency pyramid. You've probably all seen it before if you've been following us for a while or others, but we're retooling it for the Inflation Reduction Act. And for the Homes 25C. So at the bottom of the list is sort of the cheaper, more do-it-yourself, less energy savings, less comfort, less benefit, but cheaper, easier. And going up, you're getting more energy savings, more carbon reduction, harder, less do-it-yourself friendly. Just depending on who you are, you may or may not be able to do these types of things. So let's look at the first thing, having an understanding and an awareness about how to do this, why to do this, and your own project, your own home, or your own client's home. So that's where you are today. Here you are learning how we should do this. So the first thing is getting training, going to courses, attending our GreenHome Institute weekly Wednesday webinar sessions, where we are going to be talking more and more about improving our existing housing stock. We have other trainings coming up. There's other local sessions that are going on where you might be around the country. Just getting trained, getting aware, getting educated, very important. There's no tax credit for that specifically, but a lot of stuff is becoming free with some of the trainings. Next is getting a credential. And so having a baseline credential to help you understand these things, to help your clients understand these things, and understand energy efficiency better is very important. We have an example such as our certified GreenHome professional designation. There's home energy score, there's passive house, many different credentials, and you'll see why that's also important if you want to deliver these services. The next thing is to take advantage of the $150, up to $150 tax credit to help you or your client understand what improvements can be done in their own home. And so what qualifies for this credit? A home energy audit means an inspection and a written report with respect to the principal residence, which identifies the most significant and cost-effective energy efficiency improvements with respect to the residents, including an estimate of the energy and cost savings with respect to each such improvement, and is conducted and prepared by a certified home energy auditor. So it doesn't necessarily mean a blower door test has to be done. There's not necessarily specifics on how the audit has to be done, though blower door is highly recommended. But you do need to work with someone who has the energy skilled trades badge recognized by the Department of Energy in order to claim this tax credit for the homes 25C. And I'm starting here because what we highly recommend is all homes receive these assessments, which gives the approach to how you should make the improvement in an informed decision. So currently, these are the agencies that are approved. So you have to make sure your auditor has this approval, either through BEEP or CEA or BPI or ResNet or BSI or Cheers or CalCerts. The bottom two are California, really. So really, you're talking about really those middle two there. BPI, these two are really related to multifamily and large commercial structures. These are more your single family and small multifamily projects. So it's either a ResNet rater or a BPI rater. Make sure they have that credential and they can give you your certificate. Your tax assessor will probably want that to make sure that they can claim this particular home's tax credit. The other thing you probably want to do as part of the awareness session is to get your heating and cooling contractor in, and get a couple of them in to do some bids. Now, they can work in tandem with the energy audit you've gotten. So if you got an energy audit with a blower door, you can give that to them. And then likely they can do something called a heat load calculation, which is going to help you understand what kind of heating and cooling system you need and what size it needs to be. And also, if you're going to make energy efficiency improvements before getting a heating and cooling system to shrink it down, like weatherization, they can make those adjustments and changes. So that's part of the educational and awareness session, is to have this heat load calculation done as you're collecting bids potentially for the Inflation Reduction Act from your heating contractor, heating HVAC contractor. So make sure you get that done as part of making a most informed improvement project. Next on this is, after you go through the education, the training, you get the energy audit done, you might determine that there's some do-it-yourself home upgrades you can do or projects you can manage on your own. Now, some of these items are things that you're probably aware of. Some of these you might not be able to get rebated through the Inflation Reduction Act, but your utility company probably rebates them. Some of them are just great ideas to quickly reduce energy, from air sealing to weather stripping to caulking to new thermostats to pipe wrap to LED light bulbs and all the basic stuff. What's important is anything you're trying to claim on that tax credit. Again, this is going to be your accountant, right? They're like, I want to see this, right? They need to have the manufacturer's certification statement. It's a signed statement from the manufacturer certifying that the product or component qualifies with the tax credit. The IRS encourages manufacturers to provide these certifications on their website to facilitate identification of qualified products. Taxpayers must keep a copy of this statement for the records. Your accountant probably wants to see it too before they feel good about signing off on it, but it's not something you're going to be submitting directly to the IRS. Doors, you might be able to install your own door or at least manage the project. So Inflation Reduction Act is allowing up to $250 per door with a maximum of $500 per year. So that's a maximum of 2 doors. You can get switched out. So make sure that's sealed, make sure it's got a good air seal around it, make sure fiberglass does a great job of keeping heat out, reduce the glazing on it. Either way, they give you some U value requirements that you need to follow when you're doing doors on the DOE's website. Energy Star appliances, again, not currently approved under the Homes 25C, but there might be other tax credits for these. So make sure to check that out. Heat pump water heaters, heat pump dryers, a great idea. And those will have up to $840 from your state under the Homes and HERA funds potentially. So be on the lookout for that. There's nothing available for this under the Homes 25C tax credit. However, you might need to get ready for it with some electrical work, which we're going to be talking about. And the same goes for switching over to induction. Again, you might need to get ready for this with some of the electrical incentives that are available that we're going to talk about. However, the induction heating system, again, $840 rebate coming from the states potentially available for that. So you have to check with your state. There is no funds available under the Homes 25C federal tax credit. And if you're like, I don't know about induction, I really like my gas stove, I'm a little nervous, you can go out and maybe buy a little top plate, test it out, see how it works. Sometimes libraries rent these out, I've heard about as well. And you can do a induction top plate share and just see how it works to see if it's a good fit for you, or give one to your client. We've heard about that. Have them test it out before they do their, improvement project. All right, so next on our home energy efficiency pyramid is air sealing and insulation. Very important to do this so we can start to electrify and make sure homes are comfortable, healthier, and get them ready for heat pumps, get them ready to resist the unfortunate heat waves that are coming and cold waves. It makes homes more resilient to heat entry, pest entry, mold and mildew reduction, moisture issues, especially when it's done correctly, and includes durability improvements at the same time. So what products are eligible for this? Typical bulk insulation products can qualify, such as bats, rolls, blow-on fibers, rigid boards, expanding spray foam, and pour-in-place. Products that air seal or reduce leaks can also qualify as long as they come again with that manufacturer certification statement. This is including weather stripping, spray foam in a can, designed to air seal, caulk that's designed to air seal, and house wrap. So you can learn more about those. So again, just a reminder, air sealing, getting that done first. And that's going to help keep heat in the winter and keep the home cool in the summer. And again, reduce moisture problems, pest entry, and other issues. It goes beyond just energy savings. And there's $1,200 every year available for that, and potentially $1,600 in a rebate upfront cost from your state. After you air seal, then you want to insulate all around the house as much as you possibly can. So again, up to 30% of that cost, or $1,200 per year. And then $1,600 rebate, ideally starting in 2025, maybe earlier in some states like New York, as an upfront cost rebate that comes right off of the top. One thing that we just wanted to point out is the idea of adding insulation while re-siding. So if you're planning a re-siding project, this is a great opportunity to get that $1,200 to add that exterior rigid insulation behind the siding, which is going to do a lot of benefits. It's going to air seal, it's going to stop thermal bridging, and do lots of other work. So we have a session on the how to air seal, how to add insulation while re-siding. You can check that out on our link and learn more about that program and the benefits of doing that. Another innovation, and I'm keeping this away from the window section because this is really more an air sealing and insulation opportunity than it is a window opportunity. This is interior storm windows, and this is kind of could be in the do-it-yourself bracket too. You can, many of these interior storm window products, you can order a measuring kit, measure it up, they send you the windows, and you just plug them right in, and they add an extra layer of insulation, air sealing to the home. We just saw one recent study that showed an 18% reduction in air leakage in the home just by popping these windows in. And again, you can take them out in the summertime if you want to, or the shoulder seasons, to get that cool breeze. And it's a lot cheaper than brand new windows. And they can be approved under the air sealing and insulation tax credit as far as we understand it. So just another innovation to do that. That's, you know, much more affordable than brand new windows. Now, after you air seal and insulate, you're in good position to get an improved HVAC system. And that will also ensure that you can get a smaller system and hopefully electrify and get a heat pump system. Before you do that, though, you might need to, again, improve the electrical system within your home or your client's home. So what qualifies for this credit? Any improvement to the replacement of the panel board, sub-panel board, branch circuits, or feeders, which is installed in a manner consistent with the National Electric Code, has a load capacity of not less than 200 amps, and is installed in conjunction with and enables the installation of and use of any qualified energy efficiency improvements or any qualified energy property, such as a heat pump, water heater, heat pump, central air conditioner, water heater, furnace, or boiler. So again, the intention of this is to go into older homes with poor electrical systems, revamp all of them so they're ready to help the home start to fully electrify. It also can be used in tandem with the electric car rebate, which we'll talk about briefly. Now, for the fossil gas, methane gas systems, there are some tax credits still available through the Inflation Reduction Act. They're significantly diminished for sealed combustion water heaters or tankless gas water heaters that are high efficiency. But obviously, the switch we want to see is moving towards those heat pump water heaters. These heat pump water heaters take heat out of the air up to 400% efficiency, use it to heat the water with refrigerant, and then you have a super energy efficient, no combustion, no fossil gas water heater. I've had one since 2018. Fantastic product. So again, you're getting up to $2,000 tax credit for these, up to 30% of the cost, up to that. And then the homes rebate, when those kick in the States, they're supposed to take $1,750 off the top of the cost of those installations for doing that. So that's the water heating side. Now on the space heating and space cooling side, again, for your traditional AC and your fossil gas, methane gas, propane gas systems, there's a little bit of cash for those to do that if your client still is sticking with those types of systems. But otherwise, the ideal goal is to start switching people over to air source heat pump system technology. I got mine installed before the Inflation Reduction Act, so I did not get a tax credit for it. So I'm a little sad, but I'm happy to help you all get that and not be bitter about it because it was in 2020. Who would have known back then? So 30% of the tax credit, up to $2,000 for the heating side. And this is the big one, $8,000 for the home's HERA funds coming off of the top by the state. But those funds are going to be severely limited. So, you know, if your system is failing now, don't wait for those state funds to come in. Maybe if you live in New York, you're lucky, but those funds will be limited. But it is quite a big, you know, difference. $8,000 for that's quite a lot. So that will be the rebate coming off the top, but the tax credit is only $2,000. Now, what products are eligible? This is where it starts to get a little complicated. You have to, first of all, know, are you going to do a ducted system or a ductless system? Are you in the south or are you in the north? And how is that defined? If you're in the north, we're really talking about cold weather climate certified heat pumps. That's very important to help keep homes efficient. And if you're in the south, you don't have to worry about the cold weather climate. And then these are some of the different ratings you're going to need to look out for: SEER 2, EER2, HSPF2. And again, just these are the efficiency ratings they need to be, depending again on whether you're in the north or the south, whether you're using ductless or ducted mini splits. But fear not, if you go to this page on the DOE's website and then scroll, or the EnergyStar.gov's website, and then scroll down, you can click on help me find a product that complies. Now, it's still a bit of a mess, and I'll say that. The EnergyStar.gov needs to clean this up. So when you first get here, you're going to see this little nice page here, and you're going to think, like I did for the last hour, what am I looking at? I don't know what you're looking at, but if you just click on data up here, up will pop this sortable chart that sorts by all sorts of things. Is it cold weather climate certified? Is it tax credit eligible in the north or the south? Who's the manufacturer? What is the model number? Is it an indoor or outdoor unit? What is the efficiency? Is it Energy Star rated? What are the BTU loads? So they're building out this massive chart to help you figure out what products comply. And again, something your accountant is going to love. Unfortunately, what we've learned is that they've left out a lot of manufacturers still, just because they're building out this massive thing. And so if you have a manufacturer you really like, here's an example. Some different manufacturers also help you go to their website, find their Inflation Reduction Act tab, and then from there, you can click on, what is the indoor unit matching with the outdoor unit, and then they'll have that manufactured statement to make sure it complies, with the tax credit for the indoor and the outdoor heat pump. Now, dual fuel systems do qualify, as I'm told, and what I have heard is they must be a heat pump, outdoor heat pump that matches with an indoor furnace that's at least 80% efficiency. If the indoor furnace is not 80% efficiency, well, then you need a new furnace, or ideally just go all heat pump for it to comply. So two things that are important. First is the cooling coil that goes on the top of the box must be in compliance. It must have the energy efficiency ratings to comply. And then, of course, the outdoor unit, just like you would do for the Inflation Reduction Act, that must be in compliance as well. So right now, that's the federal side. For the homes and HERA rebates, we're currently lobbying the states to ensure they include dual fuel. They spell it out, especially the cold weather states with expensive electric rates, like the state I live in Michigan. Dual fuel is going to be very helpful, especially for people who are experiencing financial poverty right now and may not be able to electrify. But we have to go out and lobby. Until then, we just don't have much information about the availability of funding through the states. All right, so now the other thing that's important to know is that ground source heat pumps, geothermal, is treated differently, and it's treated the way it used to be treated under its previous tax credit. And I've personally received the solar version of this tax credit, so I can tell you that it works. But ground source heat pump technology, of course, takes heat out of the ground instead of the air, like air source heat pump technology. It's the most energy efficient way to heat and cool a home. And it can also help heat water as well. And so the 30% tax credit for this one, first of all, doesn't really have a cap. And then also, the difference between this tax credit and the Homes 25C tax credits for the other items we talked about is that you can only get the air source heat pump and the insulation tax credits that 1 year. So for example, let's say you don't have enough of a tax liability to claim all of the credit in that year, it's gone, right? That's why it's important to work with your tax consultant at the beginning. The difference with the geothermal and the solar one we'll briefly talk about later is that it carries over for several years. And I personally have seen this happen, and I've benefited from it, so I know that it works, right? I got part of my solar tax credit in year 1 and the other part in year 2, and the geothermal one works the same way. So again, a lot of people tell us geothermal too expensive, but they forget that this tax credit is now back, and it used to be 23% and now it's 30%. So look at it, is it available? Have your heating and cooling contractor give you a bid run it with your energy modeling in the energy modeling software and look at that tax credit. Because again, if you can't claim all of the air source heat pump in the first year, you might get more benefits from this one over time. Consult your tax advisor and your energy modeler for that, but it works a little bit differently than the air source heat pump system. All right, and then finally, windows. You know, windows are going to be super expensive. They're never cheap. And they're gonna, you know, they really just, you know, they only really save a lot of energy if they're failing and they're super leaky. That's the only time they save a lot of energy. Otherwise, they're really more of a durability strategy, really more of a visually appealing strategy than they are an energy saving strategy. And so overall, you're looking at 30% of the cost, up to $600, and they have to, depending on where you're located, have a 0.2 U value. Again, you know, $600 per year for windows isn't much. I mean, so maybe you're talking about strategically replacing one window per year just to get a lot of the benefits out of this particular tax credit. So the way to do it with windows is they've got this pretty well put together. I will tell you that. You go into their website and you select the type of fenestration. So you get the door, traditional windows or skylights. You select the state you're in, the county that you're in even. Apparently, they need that information to know what climate zone you're in. And then once you select search on that, it'll tell you, you know, what your U factor needs to be and what your solar heat gain coefficients, which is your resistance to the sun, needs to be. And then what the most efficient criteria should be for the north. And then they've got some more information about northern certified windows versus southern certified windows and all of that. So very helpful information there to help you and help your tax accountant feel a lot better that you're selecting the appropriate window, and you can have your energy modeler update that in the model. Now, I have an alternative energy efficiency pyramid that I want to propose to you. If you don't need windows, or you want to compare the cost of doing new windows versus the cost of solar, you will find in many cases, especially with that nice 30% tax credit, that solar and batteries are going to save you much more energy and carbon than windows do. And so this is the alternative energy efficiency pyramid. If your windows are in good shape, or you can just do those interior storm windows, I would say look at the solar as the sort of top pyramid and forget about the windows. But again, if your windows are broken, they're leaking, they're moldy, they've got lead, which is very dangerous, and that's a whole nother thing. Again, that's the decision you make with your clients, with your energy modeling, with your inspector, and figure that all out. And we have other training on all that. But let's just say an alternative strategy might be your windows up here. So again, for solar power, you're talking about, again, that 30% tax deduction. I claimed it over 2 years. This was I claimed it at 26% pre-Inflation Reduction Act. So again, I'm a little sad. I should have waited, right? But who knows? But, you know, I'm happy to help you all do it, and I won't be bitter about it. Also, some bonuses come in if you're helping clients in low-income communities, nonprofits, certain things that can, I believe, get it up to a 50%. And even nonprofits who don't pay taxes can get the federal direct pay benefit for geothermal and solar. And somehow, you know, the IRS just sends that money back in a check. I don't know how it works. Consult your tax advisor again if you're a nonprofit on that direct pay program. My understanding is, though, you have to retain ownership of the solar if you're a nonprofit who's helping other clients to get that direct pay. You have to somehow maintain that ownership for a certain amount of years. But otherwise, for traditional residents, your clients, you can get that 30% tax credit. I promise you, I didn't think I was going to get it. Pre-Inflation Reduction Act, before it got boosted, I was like, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to get solar anyway. And I got it. I was very surprised, and I was able to achieve it. And so you might think, you know, check with your advisor if you qualify, if you financially qualify with your liabilities. You may be surprised that you actually do. Now you can also pick up the battery, right? And the battery is important because a lot of people don't know this, but solar doesn't work when the grid goes down. It becomes a piece of junk on your roof, as I joke. But if you have a battery, it does work when the grid goes down. Still powers your home. You can still use the two together, and, you know, helps that resiliency as we expect the grid to crash more because it's underinvested, and unfortunately climate change to make things worse. Also, these batteries help with time of use programs that are coming out, peak reduction. That's how I use mine. This is our accountant here, Tim, who's showing off his solar and battery system, and he was able to claim these tax credits pre-Inflation Reduction Act. So they work. So again, those are the top of the pyramid, right? You want to do all the other efficiency stuff first and then get those, but they're different types of credits as well. They work a little bit differently. So again, consult your advisor, consult your tax and energy advisor to figure that out. Also, if you're doing electrical upgrades, there's an additional amount of money for just the electric car charging infrastructure, not just the wiring on the inside of the house, but the exterior charging box has some parameters on that, but you can get up to $1,000. And that's in addition to, I believe that's in addition to the $1,200 per year. So check on that one, but that's an extra thing you and your clients can do if they're looking to do a car charging situation. All right, so let's discuss ways to organize a project for yourself and your clients. For the Homes 25C Energy Audit Tax Credit, the auditor must provide a cost and energy savings measure. The best and most accurate way to do this, in our opinion, is something called the Department of Energy's Home Energy Score. This is a score that gives you a 1 through 10 rating to understand how efficient a home is compared to others. It gives you an estimated utility and energy cost savings. It gives you a home energy features report and the items you may want to consider updating now or later. And under the upcoming state rebates, the score too likely can be used to estimate the 20 to 35% savings in energy to get you or your clients up to $4,000 to $8,000 on a project. So if you're working with a good Department of Energy home energy score assessor, they can work with you to do this type of evaluation that goes beyond the automated recommendation that comes from the tool and give you whole home upgrades based on your plans, goals, budgets, additional local incentives, your architects or designers' strategies, and funding on how to get the most cost-effective way to hit your targets. So you can see here an example of an early way I use this on my home strategically back in 2020 for my electrification duct sealing project that included solar. Now you can do more things than this. Those were just the basis of my home. I went from a score to a 7 to a 10, and here were some of the different improvements I made to do that. And again, a good Department of Energy home energy score assessor is going to help you sit down and go over some iterative design to figure out what makes the most sense to do this. I did the math on this. This was a 45% reduction in my energy use. So I would have blown the federal homes rebate credit out of the water by doing this. Now, of course, they disclude solar in that. So, maybe I was right on the 35% mark at that point. But this is just an example. So you can find home energy score assessors. We gave you the link, and find a good one and partner with them. And it's important to remember that in order to get the tax credit for them doing the evaluation on your home, they must have one of those credentials, such as most likely BPI or the HERS index credential. Them being a home energy score assessor in and of themselves doesn't get you, doesn't make sure that they have that credential needed for the Inflation Reduction Act $150 audit as well. You can also do your own home energy score assessment. So they have a guest access that you can go on their website. We gave you a link. We did a whole training on how to use this and how to make informed decisions. So you can go through it yourself, get a little knowledgeable about it, see how your home can improve, see how your client's home could improve if they made certain upgrades, and then be more informed when you go to actually hire the assessor on how it works. That's up to you. All right, so I promised you I would give you some examples. So this is my mom, Deborah Little. I helped her get rid of her unsealed methane gas water heater, which was actually a fire hazard by the way the pipe was running in contacting up in the attic with insulation. And she got a brand new 120 volt plug-in heat pump water heater about a year ago in 2023. Now with this water heater, she was able to go from a tax deficit this year, or for last year, 2024, to getting money back in her taxes, but it was not easy. It was not easy to do this. And I had to have several email and phone calls with her longtime accountant. Thankfully, it was someone she knew. And I had to have several conversations with the HVAC contractor to figure out, how do we make this make sense? So again, going back to that manufactured statement, remember, the tax credit law requires that they have that statement. So the first thing you need to do is find this statement. Now, thankfully, the particular manufacturer, the website had a fantastically laid out statement on how to document this. We provided this to the HVAC contractor and the accountant, as well as my mom retained this for her records. Below on this document, it's set up very nicely. So each listing of the model, as you'll see in the top right corner I displayed, has the approved model number for the tax credit. So we just highlighted that in red. We first sent it to the HVAC contractor, and then we sent it to the accountant, and then documented it, right? Had that on hand. Next, we had to amend the invoice 3 times. In fact, the first invoice, we didn't even show it here. The first invoice did not even contain the model number. So we had to get that fixed right away because the accountant needed to see the model number. So it's important to let your contractors know, be more detailed in your invoices, or if you're a contractor, provide more detail, all the model numbers, all the specifications, because the accountant was like, what is this? Then next, the invoice at the top, the second one, had the electrical work we needed to bring in to do the 120 volt plug. That was itemized out, right? That's a good practice, right? Itemization, it's transparency. And so we thought maybe my mom could get the 30% electrical tax work for that credit. However, that was not allowed because it didn't go far enough for the electrical work. And the accountant was very concerned about all this happening and seeing all of this stuff. So we looked into it further, and the electrical work that is needed to be much more substantial. But we realized that the electrical work that was needed was required as part of the parts and labor to install the water heater. So that was able to get put into the overall cost. So instead of itemization that you see at the top, it was all put into one cost, spelled out exactly what was done, and then had the model number and all of that. So that was the third iteration that went off to the accountant. And then once they saw that, along with the manufacturer's statement, along with multiple emails and phone calls to me explaining how it all works, they got the form and they were like, you know what? Now this all makes perfect sense. So again, this is important for our contractors to get this right. It's important for the accountants to get this right, and to have these conversations together to figure out, all right, here's how we can qualify, for these tax credits. So again, most accountants don't understand these things. And so sending them this webinar, educating them on this, helping them feel good about it so that they feel confident in helping you and your clients, is very important. Now, the other thing I promised is we would talk briefly about how to structure projects. And so I came up with some examples here. The first thing you might want to do is think about the beginning of the year and the end of the year. Start to structure your projects so you have some work going on at the end of the year, which will then count for the previous year, and then some of the work happening as the year turns over. So this is one example, of how you could potentially structure it. So let's say this year, starting now, you get your energy audit done. That gives you the information you need. You get some electrical work done, so you're ready to electrify, to go heat pump water heaters, air source heat pumps, getting ready for all electric water dryers, cooking, you name it, right? And then maybe getting 2 new doors installed. So right there alone is, you're talking $750, maybe $1,000, maybe $1,500. So again, remember, you can only claim $1,200 out of all of these. So you might be able to claim some or all of this, but not all of this together, especially if you did 2 new doors. If you only did 1 new door, you would probably be able to claim that. And again, that's all depending on your tax liability as well. So that comes into play. Now, you could also throw in the water heater that year after the electrical work was done. And that's an extra $2,000 that's not done in tandem with all this stuff. We also threw in the window. Again, maybe you replace one window or put in, one window that year. That could potentially get it up to near or a little bit over that $1,200 that can be claimed. The other thing you could do is you could do the energy audit now this year, start putting your scope of works and bid together, claim the $150 energy audit tax credit. Then that keeps that off of the books and, boost that $1,200 you have available. Okay, so in 2025, let's say you and your client, you did the audit, did some of these upgrades, maybe put it in the water heater, maybe not. Now you've got that energy audit and it's telling you need to do some air sealing and insulation. Air sealing and insulation is expensive. Maybe you do the attic, you blow in some insulation in the attic this year, you'll do the basement the next year. That's $1,200, up to 30% of the cost of the air sealing and insulation available. And then maybe also you want to throw in that heat pump, that air source heat pump or that dual fuel heat pump. So again, you could also do that year, and that would be the full $3,200 right there. 2026 comes by, you've got some more insulation to do, or maybe you air sealed, then you insulate in 2026, or maybe you're doing the top basement first and then the attic first and then the basement later. Again, you can line it up. You can have this ready to go so that, again, you're getting that $1,200 by doing those extra insulation work rather than doing it all at once. Then 2027 rolls around. You might want to get an energy audit just to verify that these insulation work and windows were all installed correctly. Typically, you want to do that right away. But again, based on the tax credit, you wouldn't get that tax credit until you waited. Maybe then you start knocking out windows every year. Year by year, you switch out a new window that needs to be replaced. That's $600. So this is just an example. We all plan projects a little bit differently, but you need to phase out projects over time and think strategically, what do you need? If you've got a failing water heater coming up or a failing heat pump or a failing HVAC system, these are going to be priority, right? Because those are falling apart. So you want to get those done first. But the good news is those don't eat up the money that's done for the air sealing and the insulation, the electrical work, the windows, the doors. Those are all separate, thankfully. The other thing to think about is braiding funding, right? You might want to bring in other financial resources to get this done. Green banks have just been boosted under the Inflation Reduction Act, and they are lending. Like here in Michigan, we have Michigan Saves, such an amazing resource. We've got our friends at the Clean Energy Credit Union. If you're a GHI member, you have access to all of their financing. Utility rebates, those are getting boosted every year as states roll out climate plans. Sometimes counties and cities have their own rebate structural programs like the Holland Home Energy 101 program. You name it. You can align all of these financial resources and funding resources together, and they can work in tandem with those rebates. Just know that any kind of rebate you get has to come off of the top before you claim the tax credit. So if you got the $1,200 insulation tax credit, but got a $200 utility rebate, well, then you can only claim $1,000 against your taxes. So make sure to read that and consult your tax advisor. If you're working with clients who are facing financial poverty and are income qualified, the weatherization program has been around since the 70s. It's an amazing program. We have a webinar on that. And again, that can be used in tandem with the Inflation Reduction Act money and some of these other financial resources. And those are available in almost every county in the country. So look into your counties, your state's weatherization action agencies funds. So that's all I got. This session is being recorded. You can catch it on recording and watch it again, share it with your friends. You can go to our website, our YouTube channel, and subscribe now. You'll get an instant update, or check back there in the next couple days and you'll see it there. Again, if you're watching this on demand but not right now, go ahead and take that quiz with an 80% passing rate, and you'll receive your CEUs. If you're here live today, all you have to do is take that survey that pops up, and then check your spam, check your inbox over the next couple of days for certs at Gutenbergcerts.com, and then you can receive your certificate. And as always, a huge thanks to our board of directors, our volunteers, our executive director, Jose Reyna, and a huge thanks to our sponsors, especially our top tier sponsors who have products available under the Inflation Reduction Act for these tax credits, Rheem and Mitsubishi, to help electrify and decarbonize. So I know I didn't leave much time for questions, but I am going to stick around for questions. If you have to go and you're mostly just concerned about your continuing ed, you are dismissed, but you know you can always contact me later through email, through setting up a call with me to answer any questions of yours that I didn't get to. I'll also be looking at the Q&A and sending out a follow-up to all the questions as well, to make sure I answer all of them. But I'm going to stick around a little bit longer here to have a conversation. But again, thank you all so much for your time and for your attention. And we'll catch you on the session here next week.